What's up, guys? Jared Welch, RacingDudes.com. Listen, we are just 2 weeks out to wrap up these Derby preps, and things are heating up, to put it lightly. So let's get right into it. You saw the title of the video. Halterman kind of has done most of the videos here as late. Obviously, we do Blinkers Off together, but this one felt like I needed to jump on and do a video because this is, what a story we have developing here as we approach this weekend's Arkansas Derby. And that's right. Trainer Bob Baffert has a horse in the Arkansas Derby. No shock, right? We all thought it might be Barnes. No, it's 7-5 morning line favorite Cornucopian in the $1.5 million Arkansas Derby. His resume, one earth-shattering maiden special weight effort that happened, of course, February 23rd at Oaklawn Park. He ran that in like a flat 109, 101 buyer on debut. Oaklawn officials have said it's the fastest maiden special weight for 3-year-olds going 6 furlongs in the history of Oaklawn Park, which is insane to think about considering the history there. But yeah, off of one start, Cornucopian is not only running the Arkansas Derby, he is your favorite for the Arkansas Derby. And listen, we can talk about this. That's a whole other thing. But with Barnes not being in the race, I think more than anything, this is just my opinion, I don't know this to be fact, that this says more about Barnes not being 100% or to up to Bob's standards than Cornucopian kind of bypassing Barnes, so to speak. So the reports have been Cornucopian, and not only him, but Rodriguez have been outworking Barnes. So I think, if Barnes was 100%, I think Barnes would have been here. But that's a whole other story. Cornucopian is here. So what does this mean? Well, one, the fact that Bob Baffert's shipping him in has got to tell you enough to think he's not shipping him to lose. One start. So this means, okay, so if he wins, right, and we can talk about if he finished second, if they would still go to the Derby. But if he wins, let's assume he wins. He would be making his third career start in the Kentucky Derby. And so I kind of wanted to look back and say, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean for the future or the history of racing? What does this mean as we move forward? Okay, so just hang with me here. This was written about Taba back in 2022. So, of course, Taba went on to win won the main special weight, went to the San Diego Derby, then went to the Kentucky Derby, of course, had switched to the Yacktine barn from Baffert. That was the year that Baffert was the suspension had started. So Taba had tried this in 2022. And so this was written about him that year. So again, I think Taba's the only horse to try it, at this riding. Taba won a second start, right? This was from Steve Anderson of DRF. His first horse, he'll be trying to do it for his first horse in the Kentucky Derby in his third start since Leonidas won in 1883. So he'd be the first horse. The first horse to do it was Leonidas in 1883 in the Kentucky Derby. No horse has started the Kentucky Derby with so little experience since China Visit finished 6th in 2000. Since 1937, 4 horses have had their third career starts in the Kentucky Derby, and 1 had a second start in the famous race, according to Churchill Downs statistics. China Visit, who won the UAE Derby in his final prep before the Kentucky Derby, had his best finish of those 5 runners. So what that kind of says is no horse has won the Kentucky Derby making his third career start since 1883. Not 1983, 1883. And only 5 horses have even attempted it since 1937. So to say this is trying to buck history is putting it lightly. But if there's a guy that can do it, one might think it'd be Bob Baffert, right? So speaking of Bob Baffert, you guys remember this horse, Justify. Could Cornucopian be the next Justify? This is could he be? We'll find out, right? We only have one race to go off of. Not only was Justify trained by Bob Baffert, he was also looking to defy history in the Kentucky Derby as well. The Curse of Apollo, everyone remembers that. Of course, that has kind of been, definitely with Justify, and then again down the road, like this has been a little bit of this is changing now. But at the time, the Curse of Apollo was more than a curse. It was a fact. If you didn't start as a 2-year-old, it wasn't happening. You could not win the Kentucky Derby, plain and simple. But prior to Justify, the last unraced 2-year-old to win the Kentucky Derby in 1882 was, of course, named Apollo. So 1882. I just said 1883 earlier for Leonidas. So 1 year prior to Leonidas, the first horse to win the Kentucky Derby in his third start, this was Apollo. So it's kind of weird that both Bafferts, Justify, now Cornucopian, could they be breaking these? This in fact would be even a longer stretch for Cornucopian to break that kind of record than even Apollo was. So we'll see. But again, like I said earlier, if anybody can do it, it's Bob Baffert, because he's done it before, essentially with Justify and the curse of Apollo that's no more. And finally, this is kind of a big thing for me. Will it ruin the horse? Will it? And I say ruin very lightly, right? Like he might. It's not like I say he's not going to run if he's hurt. But we've seen this attempted before with Taba in 2022. He finished 12th in the Derby. It was a disaster. He was never a threat. He did go on to win the Pennsylvania Derby that year, third in the Classic, of course, to Flightline, and he won the Malibu. So it's not say like he didn't have a bad year, but he also could never stay on the track for consecutive races. Stay on the track healthy. He obviously was retired after that 3-year-old campaign. He just never was the same horse, it felt like, after they rushed him into this Derby attempt. And really the same goes for Justify, although different examples. He went on to win the Triple Crown, but he was never right after that. And he was forced to retire after the Triple Crown due to feet and ankle issues. So I think the bottom line is you rush these horses to do these things. On the time, it might work, but what's the effects after? And so what are the effects to getting Cornucopian to the Derby in his third career start? What does that mean for his career moving forward? Is it, everyone thought kind of, and myself included, that the Preakness would be the goal for this horse after that debut. And so, obviously the wheels start moving when you start running these horses like this in the Arkansas Derby. And then if you qualify, how do you not go to the Kentucky Derby? So many factors in play. It would be insane, right? The first year Bob Baffert gets back off of the suspension. He's eligible to have horses run in the Kentucky Derby. He gets a horse like this, Cornucopian, to run in the Kentucky Derby, and it's just his third career start. But who knows? We'll find out, right? He may not be a thing. Like, he may fade in the Arkansas Derby. He may not even be in the Kentucky Derby. So it may not even be a thing. But I think it's worth talking about. So let me know in the comments below. What do you think of Cornucopian as a horse? Do you think he's the next Justify? Do you think it's just it's going to be a total disaster? He's a sprinter. He shouldn't even be in the race. How are you going to play him in the Arkansas Derby? How do you like him in the Kentucky Derby if you were to make it? Let me know in the comments below. Again, we'll be talking about the Arkansas Derby in more detail this week on Blinkers Off. There's a preview on the website at racingdudes.com as well. Make sure you hit that like, notification bell, and subscribe to our YouTube, as we have so much Kentucky Derby content headed your way. Until next time, I'm Jared Welch. See you guys.